wasted enough time. So let's open the meeting and I'll ask if there's any public comments. I don't see anyone who's not on our committee, so I'll assume that there's not. I'm hoping everyone had a chance to read Janet's minutes. Were there any changes or additions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
And all right, I'll do a roll call. We're voting to approve the minutes from the April meeting. I didn't make that change on my. Okay, so we'll do a roll call. Kevin.
Kevin's here.
Say, do you want to
Aye.
approve the minutes? Yes.
I approve, yeah.
Pat. Patricia. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Pat, aye, yes.
Jeremy. Oh, you're on mute, but we saw that you said aye.
Jeremy Gross, aye.
Great. Janet
Janet, aye.
and Sam
Sam Nordberg, aye.
and Martha Brennan, aye. Okay, so I put in old business because we did have a couple of very specific things that came up at the last meeting I just wanted to update people on. One of them was based on the conversation with the lawyer. Tova and I worked on updating the language on our intake form. You know, there were a couple specific things about letting people know that we would protect confidentiality to the extent allowed by law. So we made those verbiage changes. I thought that was important to mention. The other thing was that we had talked about doing a flyer and speaking at town meeting, but that wasn't allowed to happen. So I did have a follow-up conversation with Catherine Harrison about ways that we can publicize what we're doing. So we'll put that on that's actually going to be under item 7, a discussion of how items move from us to them. So that was just, I felt a little bit like a lost opportunity, but given the focus of town meeting, I'm not sure that, you know, there weren't a lot of reports. And while we got a shout out that we were formed, like the one piece of information I wished to have been spoken was like our email address and our form and how people can reach out to us. But
Sorry, I can't talk to you right now, buddy.
it is what it is. So I just wanted to put that down. And then Jeremy, I put you on the agenda without even telling you, but I thought if you had an update from anything in your role as the liaison to the Hamilton HRC. Again, wait, you're on mute again.
I can't seem to find my notes, but I can give you from memory what happened.
Okay.
Yeah. Are we doing that right now?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. So they meet third Wednesday, I believe. I'll double check. And so I sat in on the first meeting. They didn't introduce me, which was unfortunate. So people didn't know who I was for most of the meeting. A big part of the meeting was a presentation by the high school students about a land acknowledgement, which we've gone through ourselves. So they I think it was more challenged in the Wenham group than in our group. There was more back and forth. I mean, for us, we pretty much just approved it. And in the Hamilton group, there was a bit of pushback, back and forth. But ultimately, I think they voted to have a recommendation that the select board take it up.
Okay. So is your plan going forward to attend their meetings and?
Yeah, I'm going to attend all their meetings.
And is there the liaison to us? Did they vote someone in as a liaison to us, or is that not?
Yeah. Let me get my notes for that.
I know they're a little bit behind us and just in terms of when they were formed. Are they also doing, I'm just curious, are they also doing like a complaint intake process and?
I don't think they've gotten that far. Christina Holtz is the liaison to us. So And I can forward you her contact info if you don't have it, Martha.
I think I do have it in
Okay,
the,
great.
in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
regular email. Yeah.
So, yeah. So I reached out to Christina before I started. And then the meeting was underway. They didn't really do public comment. They just sort of dove into the presentation because there were high school students there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, they're very new. They're still figuring out what they're going to do.
So I think I'll just have I'll have you on the agenda every month, Jeremy.
Yeah,
case
I'll
there's
put in a report
things
every
that we
month.
need to know.
Yeah.
And then I'm actually going to skip over item 6 because I didn't get to finish. We had talked about at the last meeting, kind of having a checklist created. I'm going to bump that to the next, where if we had a complainant, this would go to the subgroup that was working with the complainant, and it would have some information that we wanted to make sure that every person got, including how we deal with informed consent. And I just didn't have enough time. I got caught up in the whole town meeting thing, so I didn't have enough time to get to that. But the meat of what I wanted to talk about tonight is kind of a post-mortem on the land acknowledgement thing. And this has come up in a way, we were new, maybe a little naive, and we need to kind of build a process for how things come to us and then get passed on to the Board of Selectmen. So by way of post-mortem, I'm just going to describe kind of what happened from my perspective. Feel free to jump in, ask questions, and then what's happened since land acknowledgement has come to us, and why it didn't happen at town meeting because of the sort of process. And I think what we need to do is kind of figure out a better way to work with the selectmen. I did talk to Catherine Harrison yesterday, and she talked about possibly having a joint meeting with us and them. What is our role? Are we the subject matter experts? How do they take on recommendations from us? And I think I've said this at every meeting. What I don't want to have happen with this group is that we're just window dressing, that we're just this group that, well, we formed a human rights committee, so we got that checkbox, and we don't actually do anything meaningful. I think that would be a failure in my eyes. So anyway, so going back, I think it was at the March meeting, we had Everett and Anna Sidzik come and do the land acknowledgement. We did have some discussion about it, but as Jeremy said, we did kind of say, yep, that looks good to us. It was, to me at least, non-controversial. There was no cost to the town. It had been vetted with tribal authorities. They had a cultural council grant for any signage that they needed. There wasn't any sort of legal or, police involved. Like, it was, to me, straightforward. But then it kind of left us, and we didn't do any follow-up. We left it in the hands of Everett and Anna to kind of push that forward to the Board of Selectmen. So they requested to get on an agenda. And again, they didn't, and so they eventually got on an agenda, I think it was 2 weeks ago. And the select board is now two people, because it was after the April election. They listened, there weren't any questions, and then that was it. And Anna had to follow up the next day to ask, what are the next steps? Like, you guys didn't vote on it. And in talking to Catherine Harrison, she was surprised when she saw it on the agenda that a vote was being asked. So I think the handoff that we missed is that we almost need to shepherd a proposal like that. Like, we maybe assign a person from our group to say, okay, Jeremy, this one's going to be you, and you're going to make sure it gets on an agenda. You're going to follow up with additional documentation to the selectmen. So for example, there were some things that we could have done. This will sound a little bit highfalutin, but I was thinking, like, you make a little briefing book and you say, here are these sources, and this is why we're doing this. And this is, kind of anticipate the questions they might have and answer them ahead of time. Like, is there cost to the town? Which budget item would it come out of? Are there any, other items that they need to consider? What potential pushback might you get from other town members? There was some question about, is this a slippery slope to reparations and things like that? Like, we need to be smart about thinking what kinds of things might people ask, even if they sound, not reasonable to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One of the objections that was raised in Hamilton was a member of the general public asked the question, if we do a land acknowledgement, does that mean that we're ceding the rights to the town to the Wampanoag tribe? And that person broke protocol to insist on a bunch of follow-up questions after the agenda had been moved on. So this definitely was something that had that person somewhat agitated.
Yeah, there was.
I mean, it's not like the council for the town said, no, not at all. And the assessment that Anna had done talking with the tribe said
Right.
this language is used very commonly. It's not that the tribe is now saying, haha, Wenham is ours now. Like, it's not
Right.
about that.
Right, and I think one of the issues is that we tend to look at this in a very colonial, historical way, you know, like I want to say the white way of looking at it, because instead of how land ownership is viewed in the tribe, and so we have to like step aside and center how they view land ownership. They're not asking for the land back. That would be a different discussion. All they're
Yeah,
asking
that'd be
for is
really
to
different.
acknowledge that
Yeah.
the land, you know, historically was theirs, you know, and there's not even like controversial language in it, like that the land was stolen, and, you know, it's not, it's just saying, but by the same token, Catherine brought up that if we had done that at town meeting this year without any context, it might have appeared odd. So, you know, like I said, I feel like we didn't handle this very well, but we learned a lot about how things like this. So, for example, on the May 11th Board of Selectmen, Select Board meeting, see, I got that wrong, but it's Select Board now. They're going to have both the Juneteenth request and the Pride flag request on their agenda. So I, you know, want to put together some additional materials based on, you know, I had a conversation with Catherine. I'm going to reach out to Gary and figure out, and, you know, Diane, after she gets elected, what kinds of questions might they have? Or, for example, I got a question already about the Pride flag. Can you put a Pride flag on the same lanyard as an American flag? So I cited the US flag code. Yes, you can, as long as the, you know, United States flag is higher and larger. And, you know, so those are legitimate questions and good concerns to address ahead of time, but that's the kind of thing I think we need to do. And Juneteenth is an even bigger step. Like Pride, I feel like has been around and people know what that is. We've even done it in the town. Juneteenth is a new state holiday. There's not a lot of information. So like, we have to push the information out, I think. But let me know what you guys think. I'll stop talking. Jump in.
Martha, did you get some, I'm a little confused. How did Catherine say that it was up to us to bring it to the select board now? I mean,
You know, I think what she said was we need to figure it out, how we want to.
Who's we? This committee?
This committee with the Board of Selectmen, like in the case of the items that were brought by the Human Rights Coalition, you know, Anna did say they were going to bring that, but I think we have to also proactively let them know, not, you know, because are they going to read our minutes and know that we unanimously endorsed it? Maybe, and will that be brought up at the presentation? Yes. I think when they did the presentation, they said this was endorsed by the HRC, but I feel like we need to advocate for things that we have passed and not just rubber stamp and go. Sam, you look like you want to jump in. So
I mean, I'm just wondering if we need some kind of like an executive summary that shares our guidance and recommendations in a bulleted format for the select board, so that they can sort of take that and run with it, something
so
like
maybe,
that.
yeah, or maybe as part of the minutes, we'd say like, here's the minutes of what we discussed. Here are the action items that we're pushing forward to the select board and attachments that go with it.
Yeah, because I'm imagining something that would attach to our minutes that would be like an executive summary. And basically, you know, you'd have like a 1-sentence statement at the top of it that sort of summarizes the recommendation. then a little bit of context and maybe some action items at the end,
Or
something like that.
other information, like, you know, in discussing Juneteenth, you know, not everybody knows what that is, you know, why we would do it. You know, that in that case, there was a specific request from the North Shore Juneteenth Association, but we could add context to that in terms of other towns that are doing it, not just on the North Shore, but in the state. You know, I've already looked up, like, there's a proclamation from Governor Baker that you could attach to. So just to let the selectmen know, this is something that's, you know, fully vetted. Tom, do you have a perspective on that? Wait, you're on mute.
You're muted.
Yeah, I apologize for getting on. I was having problems with my computer trying to get you on earlier and had asked.
Oh, that's okay. It happens.
Okay. Juneteenth, a lot of communities are having challenges regarding how to deal with the holiday because technically it's now considered a legal holiday by the Commonwealth.
Right.
So there is, and particularly because it falls on a Saturday this year also. So there have been challenges with towns trying to figure out how do you recognize it, how do you honor it. So that's the perspective that I've been seeing from other towns.
I guess more specifically, I was wondering about, like, how we interact with the Board of Selectmen, like in terms of pushing
I would
or
probably
amplifying and helping get these kinds of endorsements communicated.
probably suggest is if you want to have a member of your committee be designated as a liaison to the select board and things that may come up during the evening, during one of these meetings, is then have that member be in communication with the chair of the board. One thing is, and I probably have maybe a max of 6 more weeks here, 7 more weeks. Don't know. Board is going through their appointments in mid-May regarding my successor. One thing I have discussed with Gary when he was a single chair was how many towns have liaisons, select board liaisons to boards and committees, and whether that's something that this board should consider, but that's a discussion for the full board. But you can go from the reverse and have a liaison from your committee to the board to go along with that information. And if there's further questions or they require additional information, they're the go-between for your committee.
Yeah, I think I like that idea, but I think I'd like it almost to be on a rotating basis or on a
You can do how you wish on that one.
yeah, I just think it's a lot to ask someone to attend every select board meeting, and it might make more sense if, you know, Juneteenth was Jeremy's passion, then he could attend when that was up or something like that, or just, you know, who was available to kind of bird dog something all the way through. What do you guys think?
All right, I'm wondering, Tom, would it require the liaison from this group actually attending a meeting, or would
No.
it be sufficient to just have a conversation with the select board chair?
It depends on what the actual item is. If the item is that we would like to, whatever you'd like, if you'd like to honor something or you would like to have a discussion regarding a certain item, the liaison can just bring it to the board can discuss and go back. You don't necessarily have to attend every meeting because particularly this board is very good about items that are on the agenda. So unless this is a new business item that is somewhat unexpected, you know, if there's going to be discussion on your item, more than likely it would be on the agenda and not just brought up
I see.
out of thin air.
But you'd want to go when our items were on the agenda, I think, for
Right.
sure. What about, this kind of gets back to open meetings. So say, for example, we put together a package of information related to Juneteenth. just to expand or flesh out the discussion from just the letter that they're going to be presented from the Juneteenth Association. If we email that to all the selectmen, then it's an open meeting, which is fine. We'd want it to be, but should that be the process, I guess? If I'm having a one-off conversation and then Janet, I'm assigned to talk to one of the selectmen and Janet's going to talk to the other one. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out how logistically.
Typically, what would occur, the best of all parties, well, possibilities, sorry, is that Martha, let's say you email me the information. I forward it to, well, by that time, you'll probably have 3 members. The 3 members on the board for information only and to set agenda date for further discussion. So we send that, I send it to the board. We set an agenda date, let's say for the May 18th select board meeting. Then once that goes on the agenda, our office will contact the HRC through the chair or through the whole committee, just as notification that item A, B, or C, whatever you brought forward, will be on the board's agenda for discussion, maybe possible vote, don't know, depending upon the item. And then you can zoom in or however by that point, whether we're meeting in public again or not. But that's a good way because it's timely. My office can control getting it out and getting it back. We can follow up. We're not hearing anything.
That's so to follow up on that, if we send a package of information, does that automatically get into the packet that the selectmen have and that's available publicly? Like I'd want that information to be available to anybody who grabbed the agenda.
When we set the agenda and set that up, they have a package of information.
Right.
But if you're just sending it to me right now is, by the way, here's information on Juneteenth. Okay, I send it to the board. If it's required that there's that you wish to have this on a board's agenda, that's a little different. Then that information becomes public once we set up the agenda and put that with the meeting package. But if you're just sending it to me as FYI, here's information on Juneteenth and there's no further action, then it just goes to them as an FYI with no further action at this time.
Well, like in this case, though, I know it's on the agenda for May 11th.
Right. So if you were sending information right now for them, yes, if it's on the agenda, generally that would be included with the package of information for the meeting.
Okay. So I have another question kind of related, and it has to do with what kind of autonomy our committee would have in terms of making a proclamation. So for example, there's a Trans Awareness Day coming up. I believe it's May 17th. If we wanted to promote that via a press release or not really a press release, but like with social media, is that something we would have to get approved?
I think it generally depends on the community and the board. Regarding how they wish to have. Generally, proclamations are signed by elected bodies, at least in my,
Right.
yeah. And so particularly if it was health related, generally the Board of Health would sign it. Something that's more of a town-wide one, generally the select board signs it.
Right. So as an example of this, that about a month ago when there was the mass shooting in Atlanta, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts had a proclamation against anti-Asian hate. And I reposted it on the, Wenham Facebook page, but just as in my role as a person who lives in Wenham. But I feel like that's the kind of thing that should get, a higher level of support behind it. Like So I don't know what the process would be for something like that. It seems like that would have been a great opportunity to put something on the town webpage that said, this terrible thing happened. If you, as a Asian person in our community, have experienced XYZ, here's ways you can get help. And I know anecdotally that, you know, there was an incident in Manchester where somebody pulled over and yelled at a person who, you know, was that was Asian, and they ended up reaching out. I found out about this because they reached out to the NAACP because they knew someone who was on it, and we helped that person. They went to the police in Manchester, and the police in Manchester were super supportive. The guy had actually gotten the person's license plate, and they asked if they wanted to go and, you know, do you want me to go have a talk with him? And he said, no, but I want it on file in case it happens again. So it's like an actual event that I could anticipate that we might get.
Okay.
But in this case, you know, I only know about it because the person lived next door to one of the executive board of our branch. But if we had been able to publicize in the way that Massachusetts as a state did, hey, people in our community, if you need help with this, I just don't know that we have a mechanism for like quick updates to the town website for things like that.
I just made a note to speak with the board about what has generally been historically their proclamation process.
Okay,
I've had historically in other communities where something you had just mentioned, Martha, which was like a general proclamation. In this case, I think it may have been United Nations Day. And I
Yep.
had one member of this particular board did not like the wording of the standard UN proclamation. We literally had to go through changes to get the wording proper so that one member would sign on to that. So let me check on that for you, and I will report back to the committee
okay,
through you, Martha,
yep.
on that. And I just made a note.
So that's kind of like like the first part, like a proclamation. So if it was, you know, Trans Awareness Day as the example, but the other part was sort of a more current events type of thing with the anti-Asian hate issue. It seemed, like I said, it seemed like a good way of letting people know. And as I was, you know, a lot of people say, I have heard the feedback that, you know, well, we don't have these kinds of incidents in our town. Why do we need a human rights commission? And I make the point that of course, these incidents are happening. It just because you don't hear about it doesn't mean it happens. But until people start hearing about it, other people will feel comfortable coming forward. So again, it's kind of how do we kind of let people know that we're here and that we can help?
Yeah.
So Martha, can I just ask, essentially,
Yes.
for the second, the proclamation part is pretty clear. For the second part is what we're really asking is, if something comes up, are we able to speak verbally or in writing as a committee, or do we need to have the select board permission in order to do anything?
That is kind of that's part of what I'm asking for sure.
Let me review your charge and how your creation was made to see regarding that. Then,
I mean, I think the proclamation covers, you know, that we are here to stand against all forms of discrimination and micro and macro aggressions. And so the question is, in what form does that stand take? You know, can we without seeking prior approval from the board, you know, make a public statement? And can we make a public statement, or, you know, would I email it out to everybody for proofing? I don't know. I'm really asking, genuinely asking what you guys think. But it feels like a wasted opportunity and a wasted, you know, lack of support to that segment of our residents that we really didn't do anything.
okay, let me look at this further, town meeting
Okay.
through, and I've got some time I can spend on this, and that's fine.
Martha, I
Yep.
do think I did see your post on Wonderful World of Wenham, and while I think it's great to have anything on the WW Wenham, our town Facebook page. Nobody goes to that. And I do think more,
That's
well,
not true. They go when when they're gonna complain about town meeting.
right, yeah.
Or
no,
school committee
that's true.
meetings.
Yeah, but I mean, as a general point of getting information about something like this, I do think that, it was great to see what you posted on the Wonderful World of Wenham. And I don't know why you'd need permission because you're a town resident.
Oh, no, I posted it
Yeah.
as a resident, but I'm saying like, I didn't say on behalf of the Wenham Human Rights Committee,
Oh.
please, I
Yeah, I
could
don't-
have, I could have taken the beg
Yeah.
for forgiveness, don't ask for permission, sort of
Right. I think
stand on that.
I think
but-
that would be a good
I
way
just
to-
think it's a sub segment, right? And not everybody is on Facebook. Certainly most people under 40 aren't on Facebook. I hear from those young kids. So it's not the greatest place to,
Yeah, but you'd be surprised. There are over 450 people on that Wonderful World of Wenham now. So, I mean, I don't know. I just don't think as many people, I'm just always astounded at the information that is on the town website and how few people know even where to go for it.
I know, yeah, it's true.
It's shocking, how town government works. When town meeting is, they just, I don't know. So it's frustrating and I don't even, but maybe just because I saw it, I thought it was very effective, but,
But I think Martha's question is, as a committee, what can we
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
Not
Right.
as an individual person. So the Hamilton Wenham Consortium, they are able to do whatever they want because that's a private group versus.
Exactly, right.
So I had a long talk with Anna about this the other day because I was a little bit unclear about the differences. So I think it'd be really good, Tom, to get an idea for you to get us information.
Sure.
Because certainly if something currently comes up and we really feel like as a committee, we would like to make a statement, that could take 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah,
Right.
which, right, is, and we want to drive people to, if they need help, right? And, we're not gonna be the first place that they think of. And, we want to at least be on the list of options, or at least let enough people know. Sam, you look like you want to say something.
I'm trying to think, because I'm thinking back to our charter and I'm concerned that this may be outside of our charter and that may be the interpretation. But I wonder if there's a little bit of wiggle room here related to, instead of sort of making statements or proclamations or taking a position, if instead there's an opportunity in pursuit of our mandate to go public officially with invitations to reach out to us, connect with us, things like that might be quite a bit less controversial because we're not taking a position. It's not like we're forcing the board of select or the select board into into a position or anything like that. I just worry that otherwise we might run into some pushback from the select board in terms of not wanting us to speak on their behalf.
Well, that's why I kind of brought it up, right? I didn't, but
But
I think if
we
we,
might get some good wiggle room around this idea of, can we officially solicit, feedback? Can we officially, do work to say, hey, we're aware of this too. If you'd like to talk with us about it, we're
Well,
available. Here's how you get in touch, or something like that.
I think we can, based on the part of the charter that says that we are supposed to design a feedback loop. We're supposed to get that. So I feel like I think that would be okay to post. I guess the question is how to get it, be off of just Facebook. Like, I feel like we don't have enough avenues to reach people. I keep hearing this where, we should be on Instagram because that's where all the kids are, but I don't even know what that would look like exactly. I don't think the town.
I bet Tova knows.
Yeah,
I was
well,
gonna say, or
probably.
that we could connect with some high school kids to help us figure that out.
Right, but the town doesn't have an Instagram account, right? Tom?
I'm not certain about that.
Because
Because we're not, I've seen the Facebook accounts. I don't know about the Instagram, sorry.
yeah.
Is there somewhere on the town's Facebook page where it's clear? I I find the town's not Facebook, I'm sorry, the town page confusing. Anytime I go to pay my excise tax, it takes me like 10 minutes to figure out where I need to go to do it. I always do it, but I figure it out, but I don't think it's user friendly. Is there
And,
anything on there that would link people directly to us that would jump out at people?
Well, you have to really dig for us. You have to know that we're a town board or committee, and then you have to find it alphabetically, and then you get to our page. Although when I was talking to Catherine yesterday, we were kind of talking PR stuff, and one of the things that we might talk about in a joint meeting is elevating us to the top page or somehow a link so that could be right on the first page to get to us,
Right, you first have to decide whether you're looking for a department or a committee before you can even get started on that search.
Yeah.
I think once the select board is back to 3 members, it'll be a lot. I know they've got a lot of stuff that they've got to catch up with, and I heard Catherine did say that she wants to, possibly work on the town page. So,
And I know that Nikki told me that the whole town website is
Yeah,
up for
yeah.
a big redesign, which is
Right.
why even the stuff we put up there is very kludgy and,
Yeah.
but she said, let's just get it up there and
right.
worry about how it looks later, but.
I did have a good conversation with Tracy Hutchison, who is the chair of the Wish Committee. And, explained what we are and what we do. And she said that she absolutely would present that to her board and keep that in mind if they hear of anything, which might be a place where they more than likely could hear about something that would.
That just gave me an idea. I mean, maybe we need to go on a charm offensive and go to some of these committee meetings. I know that the person who works at town hall with the planning board, she and I had a conversation because, anything to do with affordable housing and rezoning and things like that can also bring up, there are some issues that we could be involved in there. So maybe just going around and talking to the people, getting on the agenda, some of these things, like you said, wish that we could go make a presentation.
Well, the other thing too, we should keep in mind, I think Jackie, once COVID is a bit more, allows us to get together more, she's going to do her Citizens Academy again. And that we could definitely be a board that could present at something like that. You could talk to Jackie about that. But that would be a place because, people are really interested when they find that.
Kevin, what about the police in general? Do you think that everyone there knows about the HRC and what it does? And would that be something that would be helpful for them to get a presentation on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, no, they don't know about it enough.
Because they're going to be frontline in an incident. They could see, and that would be great because they would be able to direct people, sort of, if it's not going to rise to the level of needing the police involved, but you're going to, wasn't there an incident, the kid was bullied at the pond in Hamilton, and that I saw that recently on the Hamilton Wenham Facebook page, that a firefighter broke it up and they were trying to find the kid. But that's the kind of thing that could come up, right? It's like some incident that, and then if you're dealing with that child's parents, you could direct them. So maybe we could.
So just so that we don't know, I read that whole thing, Martha, also. The end of that story was the child that was bullied's parent came in and said, wait, that was my child. He wasn't bullied. It was he and his friends had this funny little, if you do X and Y. So it turned out he wasn't bullied. But the problem is it all comes out on the page. And everyone walks away and says, oh my gosh, 5 kids were beating up a kid at the pond.
Well, the thing was, though, the police in Hamilton they had showed up at her house and said, we have this report of a redheaded boy about your son's age. I mean, how would you not take that? But my point, that's a great correction. And thank you, Janet. But my point was that Kevin's officers are likely to run into incidents that, might be something that not criminal, doesn't really require police intervention, but maybe they could say, hey, if you feel like this is something that you want to pursue, there is resources available through the Human Rights Committee. Unless I'm totally off base, and please tell me if I am.
No, you're not. They need to be more aware, and that's on me to disseminate that information accordingly, so they can be on board. Just as another tool in the tool
Right.
belt to have that knowledge, and it could be something so simple to have that information given to someone from law enforcement. It almost means a little something different, and I think it's special in its own way, because I think it would have a pretty nice impact if it's coming from law enforcement to forward that out.
Right.
Yeah.
So kind of goes back to us making a flyer or a something that your guys could have. And in the same way that you refer people to services for domestic abuse or alcoholism, or like there's all sorts of things I'm sure that you're able to refer.
Well, and I know in my prior agency, it was pretty good. On the back of our business cards, we had outreach numbers, and it was I remember we had domestic violence hotline, and we had, a Narcotics Anonymous and Alcohol Anonymous, and all the different, outreach emergency numbers. But why couldn't that also be an outreach contact, whether it's our email address or
Right.
website or whatever? But, as we print out new business cards with new employees, I think that's probably a pretty good idea.
That's a great idea, Kevin.
Yeah. I think that's the way to go, because I feel like, one of the ways that information will come to us will be through stuff that you see.
I'm
And
sending myself an email now
Right.
to remind myself tomorrow.
Yeah. And I think, there was talk of us getting a phone extension, but probably just that human rights at wenham.gov, wenhammass.gov email is the way to go, but well, that was productive, actually. So I guess just to summarize, then I think and you guys jump in if this isn't how you would want it to go. I think it does make sense to kind of have, as we endorse things going on to the selectmen, either assign a person or one of us agrees to sort of shepherd it forward, with the information and making sure it gets on an agenda and being the person that follows up. And then Tom's going to get back to us about the proclamation thing. And I liked Sam's idea too, right, of doing an executive summary. So out of Janet's minutes, we're going to give you more work, Janet. We're going to have, if there's any votes or of things that we want to move on to the selectmen, we'd have sort of an executive summary that maybe gets sent to them specifically after our minutes come out. But we'd actually want to do that before our minutes are, we don't want to wait until the minutes are approved though, right? Because that's a whole month later.
So do we want to do that at the end of every meeting or not?
I think we want to do it on meetings where we have votes that
All right, so
are going to the Board of Selectmen.
All right, so it would not be today, but
Not today. Right, because normally it takes too long to wait for the minutes, right? Because we don't approve them until the next month. Even if you did the minutes the next day, we're not sending those out, but we could send out an executive summary.
Martha, even if I did them the next day, you're so nice. Usually it's Martha says, Janet, March is flying by. I don't know where it went. She's so polite.
Oh, I was trying to be nice. Come on.
And then I
Janet,
always say it's on my agenda for today, and then I go right to my computer and I do it. I mean,
the thing is, it's 100% true though, because like after the last meeting, I fired off like 5 emails right away, and then literally the whole month was gone, and I was like, crap, the town meeting is this weekend, and so I this is why I would never be the clerk.
Well, yeah, that's me too. But let me ask a question. Would it make sense, Tom?
Yep.
Maybe this is crazy, but for tonight's meeting, maybe should we make a statement that maybe could go to the selectmen saying, this is what we're going to do? That way that gives them a little heads up that this is what we're planning, or is that?
I feel like not this time, because Catherine is going to propose that we have a joint meeting. So I don't
Okay,
want to
good.
tell them what we're going to do before we meet with them and all
Good
kind
idea.
of work together.
Good
I mean,
point.
I'll still look into the proclamation matters with you, looking at the charge, public statements.
Yeah. So I think, this isn't a meeting where but anyone who can attend May 11th to support the Juneteenth and the pride flag. I think I'm not sure if land acknowledgement is going to be back on that agenda or not, but I know that it's actually being discussed at 6:30 tonight and at the Hamilton Board of Selectmen.
So Martha, just a suggestion, do you want to send us all an email about that May 11th? Because we're
Yes.
going to sign off tonight and Tova's not here, and
You know what I'm going to do? I'm not only going to send you a reminder, I'm going to send you a little mini briefing book with all the information you ever wanted to know
Nice.
about Juneteenth and
oh,
why.
that's brilliant. Good.
Yeah,
good.
so that'll be the
Excellent.
sample, and then you guys can tell me next time that was too much, or we needed to add this,
That's
or,
okay.
but then, so hopefully it'll answer any questions, but. Anyone else have any, I have, for old business, other business, anything else anybody wants to bring up? Everyone's
was-
good?
Well, just the summer.
Oh, the summer, right. Let's talk about that I'll put that on for next time, and I'll
Okay.
put that in the email.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I guess the only reason I'm hesitating is the whole, you just don't know what emergency could happen.
Well, then you
I'm
call a meeting.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm also of the opinion that we do still have a fair amount of like ground laying work that we could be doing. But I wonder if as a committee, I mean, we can meet if there's a quorum, right?
Right,
And
Yeah.
so
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
there's no reason that, individual members can't, take a reasonable absence for one of those months or
Right.
both of those months. But
I
I
had
worry
that feeling.
about, I worry about not meeting those months because there's a lot of work for us to keep doing.
It's also a momentum thing, and we're still in that sort of team building phase. The other thing is, I would love to have 6 months of any sort of holidays or special days that we want to recognize kind of planned out, so that we're not running to the select board saying, oh, you got to approve this because, it's Pride Month and it's the last meeting before, like just so that we kind of get our ducks in a row. But that's just me. I don't think one meeting a month is onerous if, but, we could also cancel it if we didn't have anything to talk about, but it seems like we still would.
No, and if
Yeah,
somebody,
As long as people let you know that they will or won't be attending,
Right.
because right now there will be 2 months I can't come.
Okay.
So, and I'll let you know.
What's our quorum for?
There were five.
well, there are 7 of us.
Yeah, so you could lose 2,
Right.
3. What
We
is
know
a
Kevin
quorum?
can't go on vacation because he's going to be the new chief, so.
I hope he gets a vacation.
He's not
Is it
getting a vacation.
official? Is it
He's not
July
getting a
1st?
vacation anytime soon.
Yeah.
Tell my wife that. and
Is-
see how that goes.
Yeah, I hear you, Kevin, I hear you.
Yeah.
Is it July 1st that it's official? When's it official?
No, it was
Oh, no.
official on Saturday.
Oh, sorry.
Town
Chief-
meeting was my first day.
Chief DiNapoli, we have to say now.
Okay.
Right.
That's right.
Martha, the other item regarding meetings, and no one's really sure yet, we've had the discussion statewide last week, is when the governor is going to declare that Zoom meetings are no longer
Official?
a method of public meetings.
Really?
Oh,
They
that's
haven't
too
said
bad.
anything Otherwise, those questions have been asked and nobody
When
has
is-
the answer for that. But Zoom meetings were utilized as an emergency method based on COVID. So the question that's going to continue is whether the governor or whether there'll be even changes in the law to
There
allow
should be.
Zoom.
I feel like Zoom meetings have opened up.
So is this, Tom, is our meeting contingent on the federal public health emergency or the state?
The state.
The
Okay.
I
state?
believe it's the state.
Mm.
Wait, we
this
can't,
is-
we cannot meet face to face because how would we see Sam's son run
I
to the bathroom?
know, and the dog.
And the dog.
Okay,
And the dog, right?
I know his son's an adjunct member of the committee.
He is.
But there really hasn't been a definitive answer. I'm just giving
Okay.
you a heads up that there's been some talk, but nothing has come out regarding going back yet to formal.
I feel like they should keep it because it really increases
may not be-
participation.
This may not be imminently pressing. The Biden administration is extending the public health public health emergency, the federal public health emergency, for at least the remainder of the year, I think into the next year.
Yeah.
And the state will likely follow suit.
Yeah, I think you're
And
right.
so, we may still have 6 months before this becomes a pressing issue.
No,
I think you're right, Sam.
but sometimes right now it's been the federal government has been taking the lead very simply. The extension in the tax returns, the IRS took the lead, then the state followed
Right.
followed with that also.
All right, we'll
right.
deal with that when it happens.
All right. If there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, I'll do the roll call. Kevin, Chief DiNapoli,
Aye.
Pat,
Patricia Purdy, aye.
Jeremy,
Jeremy Gross, aye.
Janet,
Janet Bird, aye.
Sam,
Cam Nordberg, aye.
Martha Brennan, aye. It's great to
Thank
see
you.
you guys tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. You run a
Cool.
great
Have a good
meeting.
night, guys.
Nice.
All right,
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
talk to you soon.